Okay, I'm back. Welcome to the show. You just heard delightful little girl. She was a delight, and now you're going to hear Handball Man. Um, Thank you for the the responses. Um, I love the fat and ugly ones. They're fabulous. Um, Here's the thing. We're going to do Handball Man, but we're also going to do my mother's last words to me. So let's get that going. My mother's last words to me. I didn't hear her final words. I just heard the last words she ever spoke to me because I would never see her after those words, and she had passed a couple weeks later. So we're talking, and as usual, she's getting upset at me, and you know, she's starting to, I don't know, like have like a kind of uh, mini stroke or something's going on, and I can see she's like winding up real good. And she says to me, "You are the dumbest human being I have ever known in my whole life." And I initially started laughing, but I'm like looking at my mother and I'm like helping her to the couch and making sure she's okay and stuff. But inside I'm laughing because that's pretty good. Not knowing these are the last words my mother is ever going to tell me. And I put her down, and she's comfortable and she's feeling better, which is upsetting because she couldn't do it herself. And she's like snapping this stroke out of her. Yeah, I've seen her. She's too delightful for a stroke to kill her. And she snaps the stroke away. She calms down. 2, 3 minutes later, I'm still hanging out, which is annoying her. And then she reaches for the Mohawks, pops a cigarette, lights up. I'm like, okay, she's doing great, and I leave. And I go back to Johnny Land, and I'm like anxious to tell my father, make him laugh for the day. And I go back home, and I'm like, Dad, you know what Mom just said? She said that I am the dumbest human being she has ever met in her whole life, has ever known in her whole life. And here I am waiting a response from my father like, leave her alone, or ease up on your mother, or, let it go. And he goes, I could say all this stuff because he's still pausing and thinking. And he looks at me and he says, you may not be the dumbest. And I'm like, oh. And that's how that day began. But anyway, so all those people that are calling me crazy and stupid, you're all my mother's last words were, you are the dumbest human being I have ever known in my lifetime. So, Handball Man. But that I'm going to come back to now, my mother's last words to me, because I can't believe they were their last words, and I can't believe how unbelievable they're going to fit in to the greatest love story ever told, Handball Man. Like I told you, my father was a New York City fireman. I'm 4.5 years old. This is after Rudolph, and this is still 1960, I guess the beginning of 66 now. So my father joined the fire department in 63. He started out in the Bronx, South Bronx. He ended up 307 154 in Jackson Heights, engine 307. That was his stay for 10, 12 years, something like that. But he started out as a probie, I guess, I'm not guessing, I know, in the Bronx. And then he was in another station, and I don't know where this handball court was, but I know that handball was a big deal back in 64, 65. And it's not, stickball, that round pink ball. No, no. This is four-wall handball, little black ball, two gloves. Okay. Now, I never saw my father in my life play handball. I'm 4.5 years old. I'm so stupid that I don't even realize that my father's a fireman. I never saw him we went as kindergartners to the firehouse and met the guys that were firemen. One guy comes out in the hat with the visor down, and visors are like black. I'm like, how does that guy see through that? You know, I'm like, I look at the equipment today versus the equipment in 1965 or six, and I'm like, and these guys with these enormous rubber suits. My father used to flip them on me when I came to the firehouse. He goes, "This is what I run around in," and I'm like, "Whoa, that's really heavy." But this is later on. This is I'm 4.5 years old. And my father's not at the firehouse, and I'm 4.5. He's not talking about the firehouse. He comes home, he's going to the couch to rest after a day, or he's working that second job, and when he comes home, he's resting. There's no talk about the firehouse or my father's a fireman. But my mother kept saying, the firemen are coming over, the firemen are coming over, because they were calling my father. So maybe my mother is right. Maybe I am the dumbest human being because my father's a fireman. But when the firemen come over, I'm equating his friends as the firemen. So when I was really young, like when people said firemen were heroes and all of this stuff, I thought they were talking about my father's friends. They were the superheroes to me, not my father. My father was just my father until Handball Man. And it goes very simply. They had this big firemen have rivalries against firemen, cops and firemen, baseball, basketball, football, hockey. They play against each other. This was a handball war. And my father played handball. I never saw him play, but he was thin and strong and fast. None of those things I inherited as an athlete. He called me a waddler, and if I was in the water, I was a sinker, so this is how it went. So the big day, the firemen are coming over and they're worried. They're going, Jack, can you do this? He goes, look, I beat you guys, but you guys aren't that great. I can beat you guys. He goes, but you're faster than this guy. I've seen this guy play. He goes, don't be upset. And he's like, the guy was like a former high school champion and all this stuff. And they're trying to, because now there's money being put on it. And here's where the bets come in. And this is where, I'm all over it now. It's like I have to be at this thing. So, you know, I mean, how much money could they put on it? What did a fireman make in 1966? I don't know, 15 grand, 13 grand, 14 grand. My father made no money. So bets were made. And my father, I know, he had $50, and that was a lot of money. $50. Oh my God. My father's betting 50, and guys are backing him up. And we go to the handball court, okay? And we get in, and I'm looking at this place, and I remember a fence, and I remember it was like no arena. It's not like you're going into a high life fronton where you have seats and viewing through the fence. But I do remember a fence or mesh or something. And this guy's already practicing, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, he's bigger than my father, and my heart's starting to pound. And I'm like, he turns around and I go, man, he reminded me of George the Animal Steel. I love George the Animal Steel, but I didn't know who George the Animal Steel was as 4.5 years old. And this guy was thick and he growled in my father's direction and it looked like he was growling at me. And now I'm already losing my mind. I see we're up to almost 9 minutes, so I'm going to have to make this a two-parter. So I'm going to end it right here. Absolutely where it's kind of like the Grinch. Is he going to lose all the toys or what's going to happen? I'll tell you that reaction. My mother didn't get me that time. But anyway, this is two parts. We're up to the main event where my father is going to face off and will he win or will he lose against George the Animal Steel? Because this guy scared me bad. I was scared. My father's friends were laughing at me. They were laughing. I don't know why, because I didn't think he was going to do anything. And I didn't even know what handball was. So I didn't even know what I was about to see. So I'm going to end it there. I'll be back, Dr. Fat Lucky Cat at gmail.com. Keep the abuse coming. I love it. Thank you.